name is Elizabeth Grant with the Cumberland County Planning Department, and welcome to this installment of Planning in Plain Sight, because the future works better when we can all see it. Today, I am speaking with Pierre MaCoy, who is a hydrogeologist with the Susquehanna River Basin Commission, and he's also a Cumberland County native. He graduated from Shippensburg University, and he grew up on a farm in Western Cumberland County. Hi, Pierre.
Thank you, Elizabeth. Thank you for the warm welcome.
Sure. Can you tell us a little bit about who the Susquehanna River Basin Commission is and what your interest is in groundwater?
Yeah, absolutely. Sure. Let me put on my slide deck here and put some visuals up to help everybody here. Give me 1 second. All right. Can we see everything good?
Perfect.
So as I said, my name is Pierre MaCoy. I'm a hydrogeologist with the SRBC. The Susquehanna River Basin Commission is a federal interstate compact back in the late 60s, early 70s. The states of New York, Pennsylvania, and Maryland got together to manage the basin as a whole and created a compact along with the federal government. Our mission is to enhance public welfare through planning, public water supply allocation, and management of water resources. Groundwater fits into this because it is probably one of the largest resources we have in the basin. You know, it's very apparent for most people. We look at a stream, there's the water, but underneath our feet, below our ground, there is much, much more water. Much of our aquifers and our reservoirs are actually below ground. So that's why we're interested in it. That's one of the reasons I, as a hydrogeologist, am so interested in groundwater, is because it supplies the base flow to our streams, which we'll get right here, from our rain. So you can see the stream is the physical expression of our rivers, right, our streams, but it's also physical expression of our groundwater. When there is no rain and there hasn't rained for a while, the water you see in your stream is actually all from the aquifer. And that is what we're very concerned about, making sure it's still available to us.
Could you define an aquifer for us?
So that's defining an aquifer. There are many ways to define it legally from different perspectives. I think the Supreme Court's currently working on it. The way I would define an aquifer is a series of materials, geologic or man-made, that contain and allow movement of water.
Okay.
There are many ways, as you can see here on my definition of recharge. There are confined aquifers, unconfined. In Pennsylvania, we have such a diverse geology, all the way from the Chesapeake Bay up to the northern Finger Lakes almost, that it's really hard to make one definition stick. In Cumberland County, we're all aware of our sinkholes and our limestones and our caves. That's one type of aquifer. It's one of the best aquifers we can have. However, if you go more north, for those who have hunting camps, closer up to northern Pennsylvania, more sandstone and shales, different types of aquifers. But they all have one thing in common, is they allow water to move and provide water for our wells and our streams.
Great. So I think today we're going to be talking a little bit about what a critical aquifer recharge area is. Could you share, with us what that is? The CARA, I think it's known as.
Yes. So we developed that primarily because we are driven by our compact from the 3 states and the federal government to protect water resources for everyone. That includes industry, recreation, and of course, residential. And since groundwater comprises the majority of water that is used, that is in danger, we look at groundwater as a critical planning objective, more specifically to protect critical aquifer recharge areas. Some people say, what is that? How do you determine what's critical, right? Well, that was the first step that we were really tasked with, was to determine what are critical aquifer recharge areas. So we could go through what is important about aquifers and groundwater. We just talked about it. Cumberland County is a very agricultural state. One of the reasons we want to protect it is because we have a lot of farms. But more importantly, we want to make sure that there is plenty of water. So what we did is we developed a study. We've been working on it for about 5 years. We just published it, I think, 2 years ago, year and a half. Specifically, and that is to identify specific areas where groundwater comprises the majority of recharge. In other words, land areas that are critical to keeping our aquifers full and our streams full. So we did this by kind of looking at a multi-layer system, right? So if you could imagine, I don't know who was in high school or college that had all the transparencies laid over each other. That's what we did. We put all the different values or indexes together to reach a score, and the score is a recharge potential. And in areas where the score is high, it ranges from 100 to 500, we get a really good area. So here's what the result is. On the left is the entire map for the basin. You'll see Cumberland County here is down towards the southwest. The dark blue area on the right, that of your screen, that is actually the top of the top. That is what provides 80% of our groundwater. It also, when in the middle of summer, when it hasn't rained for a month and the streams have water in them, this is all groundwater. Those blue areas, yeah, those blue areas are really, really important because
Wow.
if we preserve those, we can guarantee that we have water. And that's where it's a critical aquifer recharge area.
That sounds, yeah, that sounds really significant. And I think you did on one of your slides have that, that we do in Cumberland County, a lot of our residents are dependent, especially in the western part of the county, on well water. So that is really significant for them, well, all of us use the groundwater, but especially looking at that area, where people are dependent on wells. Um, can you maybe say a little bit about the quality of aquifer recharge in Cumberland County and maybe where we see the most recharge capacity?
Yeah, that's a really good point. So Cumberland County is really lucky. It's been blessed with good geology, right? Groundwater and aquifers really depend on what's below you, right? It's a subsurface. So, if you're out west and you are, say in the plain states, your groundwater is several hundred feet down, and the material that it's in is more tight sandstone, right? Here, Pennsylvania and New York and Maryland, from the Bay all the way up to the Finger Lakes, the geology is so diverse, right? We have our coal fields up, northwest and northeast. We have our plateaus up, at the New York Pennsylvania border. But Cumberland County lies in the Great Valley. The Great Valley is denoted. It goes from New Jersey all the way down to Tennessee. Some people call it the 81 Valley. I used to visit friends down in Tennessee, and it's a long 8 hours to get down to Tennessee. But it is the limestone valley. And limestone is ideal for aquifers because limestone is calcium carbonate. When it rains, it helps dissolve. And when it dissolves, it creates caves. Those caves end up holding groundwater, large amounts of groundwater, billions and billions and billions of gallons. And so they make great aquifers. And Cumberland County is lucky enough to have these. Maybe not the big caves you think of like Mammoth Caves. However, we do have some great, great aquifers. Sometimes a little hard to get to, but there's also, it's okay. And I'll show you specifically for Cumberland County. Those who are familiar with Cumberland County know we have a series of springs. I myself am from the Big Spring area, but there's also, Letort Springs and Green Spring and so forth. And you can see them here in the central part of our valley, right? If you recognize the shape of Cumberland County, 81 kind of flows this way as well. And these little, if you can see my cursor,
Yeah.
I'm not sure. These are
Yes.
all the springs that come out. And the reason why they're coming out is because we have our limestone in the central portion. In the northern part of the county, those who live up there, it's a Tuscarora sandstone. There's some shales, little irony water, right? And then those who live on the South Mountain side know that same thing. It's more of a sandstone and irony as well. In the central portion is where our limestone is. And there are three major large watersheds here, and you can see where the springs kind of come out. Now this is where we really see the critical aquifer recharge areas. I think I mentioned before the blue that it was where 80% of our groundwater base flow comes from. And you can see in Cumberland County, no surprises here, right? We see that the majority of it is in our limestones and near South Mountain before you get into the mountain. And if you notice the springs that are here, that's where all the blue is. So if you can envision these critical aquifer recharge areas, it rains, it goes into our aquifers. And then the aquifers are full, they discharge into our springs. These areas here are critical to making sure we have water for Cumberland County. And I'm not saying development can't happen. It's just we have to make sure that our stormwater situation is properly done and we're okay with it.
Right. What can we do to, protect the capacity of the land to allow for groundwater recharge?
The easiest way is obviously to be mindful of our critical aquifer recharge areas. Try not to pave over areas that provide a lot of recharge. If you are developing a site, and this is where our study is very useful, it's a small 30 by 30 meter square planning area. Make sure you put your stormwater facilities over areas that are critical aquifer recharge areas. Make sure we get that water down in the ground. What a great example I like to show is here in Western Cumberland County. You can see here, this is, a 100-acre plot. This is my family farm off the Big Spring. The whole farm is pretty much really good for critical aquifer recharge. But in certain areas, say here, this is closer to Shippensburg, there are smaller discrete areas, and these areas here are the ones we want to preserve and or make sure we maintain infiltration.
Okay. Wow. So that it can actually be done on the parcel level where we can protect those areas, versus maybe larger contiguous tracts of critical aquifer recharge.
Yeah, that's the beauty of this study, and one of the reasons we did it is because I'll show here. This is a development I think closer to Carlisle, and you can actually see down here these little blues. That's actually the stormwater facilities that were developed for this development. It can see that, so you can see that it's working, right? The stormwater is going to be good recharge, and you can start planning. Say, for example, you need to develop this area here. Well, that blue, that's where you'd want your stormwater. You want to make sure that you maintain that recharge. It's just working with the land and using what's useful. Honestly, it's a very powerful planning tool for developers if they ever want to look at things, because they already have a map showing them where they need to put their stormwater. It's really, really helpful. It helps the planning commission when you look over it. Oh, hey, you're infiltrating water where you need to infiltrate. Good, you're keeping the same amount of groundwater. In certain areas, it's about an acre and a half of land to provide enough water for a homestead. So you have to be cautious when you develop that you're not cutting off the amount of water to the ground. Because if you do that, some of the issues is flooding, right? Flash flooding from impervious surfaces, but also you're depriving the local groundwater from replenishing, which means that your neighbors who have wells, your farmers who have wells, during the summertime, it drops down deeper and they might have to drill deeper, or they might have to get a new pump, or, even worse, they might run out of water. As long as we maintain the infiltration, we'll be all right.
Wow. So this is a great mapping resource. I want to make sure that we share it, in our comments for this YouTube video. It's available on your website, is that correct?
Yes, we have a whole page dedicated to it. Our studies there where you can delve into the details and see how we actually got to where we are. You can also access it through our SRBC Atlas. There's actually not just this layer, but a lot of basin-wide layers that our GIS department works really hard to do. You can also see, applications and other water uses that might be interesting to you. And then lastly, for the GIS nerds out there, which I am one of, proudly, we also have our raw data available on PASDA at Penn State. They're hosting it, and you can download it and do as you wish with it. So we have many different sources to use. And feel free, it's out there for the public to use. If you are in an engineering firm, a consulting firm, a planning department, or a nonprofit, please feel free. And then lastly, also keep in mind that the commission has a duty to serve our residents in our basin. Any questions regarding this information, please feel free to reach out to our GIS department or myself, and we'll help you. We've helped a lot of groups do some maps here and there.
That's wonderful. I wanted to ask you one more question about SRBC and your programs. What programs do you have available to help communities protect and plan for protection of these areas?
So I guess we'll jump to it. This is a program I'm very proud of. We have several programs, mostly for water suppliers, because we feel that water supply is a very important component of our mission. But we also have a consumptive use mitigation grant program, if you will. Consumptive use is, if people are not familiar, it's water that is used and not returned to our watershed. The easiest way to explain that is if you drive by a power plant and you see the steam that's cooling the engine go up in the air, that's consumptively used. We don't know that steam goes up in the air, and it goes probably New Jersey, maybe Delaware, who knows. But that is being removed completely from the system, as opposed to, say, if you live in a town where you have public water, public sewer, your water is being withdrawn from a well, it's coming to your house, it leaves through the sewage pipe, it is treated by the sewage plant and returned to the aquifer or the stream further down. So that stays in our system. That's not being used up. It'll be available downstream. So we look at trying to change that difference, right? A great example is bottling plants, right? There's, sodas and whatnot. They use water and they ship it all over the Northeast from Pennsylvania. That water's gone, right? And, some people think, oh, well, it's only 12 ounces. Well, Pennsylvania makes a lot of soda, surprisingly, a lot of bottled water as well. And so that adds up. And what we do is we look for ways to mitigate that or kind of make up that water. And that could be anywhere from looking at quarries, mine pools, impoundments, to conservation. We've worked with a lot of industries, most notably in the potato growing area, helping them reduce their consumptive use and reduce their use so there's just more water in general, right? If you don't use it in the first place, then you don't have to conserve you don't have to worry about replacing it. We also look at recycling. I know Penn State has a great program where they use their treated water for recharge up in Happy Valley. That's really good. And then we also look at environmental water quality areas like stormwater management. If we can go and look at stormwater basins and, before the development, maybe, half the water went off the site, but after development, the basin's deep enough to take all the water, we're actually increasing recharge, which means we're increasing the amount of water going to the aquifer. It's going to make up for some of the water we're losing. So this program we have is available for anybody who's either a project sponsor who has a docket with us, or is a local, state, and federal government entity, including nonprofits and colleges and universities. Pretty loose to go in there. We provide 4 to 6 million a year with a 20% cash match, and there's details on our website about this program and the guidelines. We just finished up a round, which we'll be announcing quite shortly. Who the awardees are, but it typically starts in the fall of every year, and we've done it every single year now. We're in our 5th year, I believe, and we've saved billions of gallons of water per year. It's been a very successful program. People have been very, very happy. We work with anything from public utilities to help fix their leaks and their meters to restoring wetlands that can filter the water and also improve recharge. We worked with quarries to make their operations more efficient. And we've also worked with reservoirs and dams to kind of fix their working so they can control their water better. You can read a whole list about it on our website. We have a whole page dedicated to it. Or you can reach out to me and I'll send you the link.
That's great. Yeah, we definitely want to share that with people because this is a wonderful program because it is very significant, to look at the capacity of the land and make sure we protect that. So is there anything else that you would like to share?
I wanted to point out something about our recharge potential here, and this is up more north, is we talked about the water, the blues, right, that provide the base flow, but there's also really good areas that may not appear to be. So in the northern part of the basin, water's a little tighter, right, except for Happy Valley has a limestone valley, but it's very important to understand that even in areas that aren't showing as being good, there are good areas. This is around Loganton Borough here, and you can see there's small fine lines, these small areas. Those add up, and they're very, very important, especially in areas where there's less water. And I'm talking Adams County, York County, southern Lancaster County, for example, where it can get rather dry. That means those areas, in my opinion, are a little more important because there's less of them, right? If we go back to the basin wide here, you can see there are areas, the northwest portion, right? We have out towards, Franklin, the Juniata subbasin. There's small portions. You can see here in western, eastern Adams County, it's almost completely dry. But those little dots that you do see are very, very critical. And I would almost argue that these areas that we show where there are some areas are more important.
Where they're spread more scattered and not as concentrated. Is that?
Yeah, it's interesting. You'll notice on our basin-wide map, there's 2 large areas that show up in dark blue, right? The anthracite coal fields of the Eastern Basin and the Cumberland Valley limestone aquifer. If you notice, Penn State barely, I mean, Penn State's right here. It shows up a little bit. It's nothing compared to what we have in Cumberland County. And I also want to point out that even though Lancaster County is also in the Great Valley, it doesn't have the same density. It has a different geology. Truly, Cumberland County and even Franklin County, for that matter, that goes all the way down to the state line, even though it's out of the basin, are nation-defining aquifers that we need to be very careful of. If we protect them, we have an asset and a resource that's very, very important. And that's what I want to kind of convey now, is that we have a great resource. We should be very mindful in how we use it and how we manage it.
Wow. So just to restate one more time too, the top 20% of your recharge areas provide water for 80% of the entire area.
So this blue here, that's 20% of the land area, provides 80% of the base flow during their low flow period. So what that means is if we protect all these blue areas, we are guaranteeing that 80% of our groundwater will be available for us during drought periods, right? We're not really worried when we have floods. I mean, flooding is a bad thing, obviously, but for water use, we're really concerned about droughts. And so if we can protect against droughts by protecting our groundwater, that's the way we do it. Our streams may dry up, but our groundwater might be still full in our wells. So that's what we're looking for.
Wow. Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate your time and your expertise and sharing that with us. We've really enjoyed working with you and look forward to learning more. We definitely will be sharing those links, and I see you sharing your contact information there.
Yes, thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to speak with you today. I appreciate it. And as a Cumberland County resident, thank you so much for the planning department. When I was in university, I just wanted to say that I was in the GIS department for Cumberland County as my internship, and I worked a lot with the planning department, and you guys are awesome. And so here I am, 25 years later, hopefully giving back the favor. So, I really appreciate you guys looking out for our county and our resources.
Wonderful. Thanks so much, Pierre.
No problem.
All right.